again, sorry to take tonight. But basically, Euronext, beginning of 2007, was monopoly. Nobody could go trade outside the national market, whether it was in Netherlands, in Portugal, in Belgium, in France, and so on and so forth. And of course, while we were building Europe, the European Commission decided to break those monopolies, as they have done in all industries, and therefore to introduce competition to create innovation. And it was a good intention, and decrease the cost of access to capital and protect investors. This regulation, you will hear about that because, I mean, few Bibles have been written on that. This regulation had good intent and was launched in 2007. And unfortunately, what was done to decrease cost of capital and bring more competition, therefore more innovation and more clarity in the capital market in Europe, has been a disaster. Now, if I would speak outside, I would think slightly what I'm saying because I cannot be that brutal, but it is the reality. Why is this a disaster? Because after 2-3 years of this regulation, what has happened on the capital market in Europe are two things, two phenomena. One is an opacity, which is unacceptable and tolerable, increased, and putting at risk all markets. I'm going to come back to that. Another phenomenon is an over-fragmentation of the remaining part, which is not opaque, which is the transparent part, the part where we are working on. So opacity, just to cite the issue on stock market, which by nature should be transparent. On stock market, the opacity has moved from 20% 3 years ago to almost 45% this year. So one trade out of two is made under opacity, and nobody knows what went on. Nobody knows how to protect investors. Nobody knows why such margins are taken and where they go. More importantly, without being technical, nobody knows how the clearing, which is the counterparty to ensure that if you buy a stock, between a buyer and a seller, if one part is default, somebody will ensure the risk and so on. So of course, if you are an investor, whether you are an individual or a big investor, you want such things. This doesn't happen under the opacity. So it is a concern. So 45% of the market on stock market today is opaque. I will tell you what has driven that later on. It is 90% on the derivatives market, right? And remember that the crisis in 2008 came from this market on very complex structured products that were on the opaque part. So 90% that's concerned. If you go to the bond market or the debt market, it's even 95%, and the rest is almost all outside regulation. So the first phenomenon after MiFID was launched, which is a big concern, is what I call opacity. And we need to go fix that and context the text. The other phenomenon is the over-fragmentation of the transparent part of the market, which is shrinking because opacity is increasing. So the transparent part of the market, which is what policymakers, regulators, supervisory bodies, and so on can check. Oh, by the way, I didn't mention that our markets work every day with regulators. We report every night what has happened on our market. We have teams on supervision, market integrity, which train their determining factor or things that have gone wrong, and then we report that to the regulators in Europe, and together we try to understand what was wrong and how we could correct, which of course doesn't happen on the opaque part of the market. Closing this bracket and coming back on fragmentation, I'm going to just illustrate what I mean by fragmentation. Maybe you thought about that. Maybe you remember what happened on May 6th last year in the US, which is called flash crash. Let me remind you if some of you don't know. So on the US market, in 5 minutes, the Dow Jones plunged by almost 1,000 points, which is 10%. It's never happened. It's a record. Within a day, it's a record. And the market recovered within 3 minutes. Within this period, you had things which were completely goofy aberration. And let me give you an example. Accenture, the very well-known company, right, which you know, was traded at few cents, right, which is an aberration. Nobody would sell Accenture for 2 cents. It become crazy. Now, amazingly, it took to the SEC, the regulators, and the SEC in the US 3 months to understand why this happened and how they can fix it. They don't know yet how to fix it. But the net, I don't go into detail. The net of that is the symptom of over-fragmentation. If you are fragmenting markets with no commonality in the rules on how, for instance, you would handle high volatility or any liquidity issues, right? If you do that, and if you create dozens of small marketplaces that have their own rules and so on, if you have an issue in the market because of high level volatility, you can understand on that. Now, why is it important, what I'm telling you? Because the more the markets are becoming opaque, and the more they are fragmented, the more we hurt the main fuel of what's needed on the market. What is the main fuel of the market? Confidence. It is confidence. You can do all the theories that you will learn. At the end of the day, confidence is not a source factor. It is what's needed on the market. You can have the best structured market and do all the right things if you have still the confidence from investors, whether it's large investors, mid-sized investors, small investors. Your market will be empty. They will not go there. That's what's going on at the moment. And you will leave the market to highly specialized people like, I will elaborate on that later on, high-frequency traders and it cannot be. So why is that? Because the markets are one of the main engines to sustain and boost economic growth and create jobs. So society needs that. You can take that by any angle you want. It is really important. It's especially important in a world which is globalizing further, where globalization accelerates, and where you know that you're going to destroy your industry, to rebuild other industries in other places, you will have difficult conditions and so on, and you need financial markets to get that done, and control what is going on the social aspect. So next, of what I'm telling you on the subject, and I will pause, the two phenomenon, and it's ironic by the way, because we were supposed to control this phenomenon, and 2-3 years after, in the country, opacity has doubled, and fragmentation is becoming a nightmare. Now, why do I tell you that? And I come to my third subject and before the roundtable. I told you what we are. I told you how we see the market at a very high level, and we will, of course, elaborate, I guess, with the questions. Now, what do we do with that? So, I see my mission, and that's the reason why I joined, in different buckets. So, one is we adapt because my company has been put in a somehow terrible landscape in terms of competition. So we are globalizing the company, I'm going to elaborate. We are re-engineering the company, taking costs out so we can adapt our prices. And we are repositioning the business so we don't stay just in trading, but we work on the pre-trade and the post-trade arena and the technology. I won't go into detail unless you are interested. So, but that's what you do on any kind of company, any kind of industry, right? But additionally, we spend a significant amount of time to get facts, and we have a lot of expertise on that. Model what's going on the market, what I told you on opacity, fragmentation, and other phenomena, and discuss and collaborate with regulators, policymakers, the European Commission, and the European Parliament to make sure they will revisit and change the regulation, basically in two big pieces of work. One is called MiFID II, which is the revision of the regulation I told you. Another one is called EDHEC, but don't go into detail for clearing out and post-market infrastructure. But we spend a lot of time in this area. Now, I will conclude by telling you who is our competition, just a snapshot. Competition, as I said, is one, the opacity, and the people behind the opacity. That's our competition. Because we are transparent market, the more the opacity increases, the smaller the transparent market, right? Number one. And number two, we believe and we show that opacity is dangerous for the society itself. So we see our competition as being the people trying to explain that opacity is needed. And we will have questions on that, I'm sure, so I'm not going to elaborate. So that's one kind of competition. Which is not the way you would define your competition, right? You name Paul, Smith, right? But we see our competition being opacity around the globe. The military competition are people that in the fragmentation subject I told you are using business advantages they were given at the beginning of NYSE